This is Dr. Jack Barnathan, and my friends all know I'm all about finding my whole life strengths that too often we hide, or someone told us when we were 6, no, you can't, and they're already in here. And a lot of the things that we have to do is not to go searching so much, but releasing and affirming. And that's my whole thing. And there are people in my life who I know and have worked with and who are friends who I have so much respect for. One of them is Mary Cognat and marytonic.com. Mary, I know many years, and Mary has experienced life on many different levels. She's going to tell you her story, and maybe in future talks we'll get into that, but she's traveled. And I just, you know what, I didn't even talk to Mary about this, but I always felt like when I would see Mary would be in Portland, Mary would be in Florida. One of the things I noticed very early on, Mary always listens deeply. She's one of those people who, when you have a conversation, you realize she's all there, fully there. And this is just as a person, as a friend, but as an integrative wellness guide, as a certified breathwork healer, as someone who has devoted her life to exploring sacred healing spaces and to be a holder of that, and somebody who understands what touch is about. Talk to a chiropractor about that and how it can be, as she's referred to often. And the reason, you see Mary Tonic, a tonic's that elixir, knowledge of experience and energy and fire and all things, in my opinion, Mary. Mary, it's so great to be talking with you today.
Me too. How are you?
Outstanding, outstanding. Mary, one of the things we got talking about the other day that it's intrigued me because I'm a neuroscience geek, but when I talk about when I talk in front of doctors with neuroscience, and they love when I start talking about the prefrontal cortex, but I'll say, do you know that they've discovered that's where intuition is hiding? And this is in medical studies, like the fMRI can tell us where we get feelings, things that when I was in school, they would have suspended me for unprofessional conduct if I said that. And now it's fact. And, Mary's one of those people who understands, and we were geeking out a little bit about breath and how NASA, instead of giving more stimulants to the astronauts, decided 10 minutes of quietly breathing with their eyes closed in a proper rhythm actually increased reaction time 38% and clarity and awareness 17%, so they don't make mistakes and things like that. And Mary, how exciting is this? And just excite everyone also with how clear and simple this could be.
Well, breath is what we do, whether or not we're paying attention, right? Spirit's in the body needs to breathe. It's just what happens. But I think where we get lost along the way is that we forget to pay attention to it. And it's so easy. You're driving, you get stressed, you get tense, and then you realize, have I taken a deep breath in a half an hour? No, probably not.
Mm.
So because we're in this rush society and this rush culture and everything fast and furious, it's hard for people to sit, or at least it's in thought, it's hard to sit and be still and to focus on the breath, right? So there's a million different ways, pranayama practices, there's box breathing, there's all these things that we can do to slow the body down. Um, and that puts us more in a present state. So not only when you're breathing are you sort of quieting down the frontal cortex, which is where the egocentric mind is, but behind that is also the pineal gland, which is considered our God antenna. So when we get to slow down and we listen more internally, which I know people are struggling to do because the mind wants to be in charge, the mind wants to do, the mind wants this and that and the other thing. But when we can sit quiet and breathe, whatever the practice is, whether it's box breathing or some kind of pranayamic breathing, to slow down and actually listen, we can get in touch with our intuition that lives behind the what we call in yoga chitta vritti, the monkey mind, because the mind always wants to be busy. But I think because of the way society is, our minds are pretty much in control most of the time. And when that happens and we don't connect more deeply, our bodies can't breathe more deeply, right? Because the brain's always like next, 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 and always trying to hyperanalytize everything. But when we slow down and take deep breaths, or actually we're cleansing our body more. We know that the breath cleanses so many more toxins than, I don't know, a fast,
Mm,
because everything is exhaling like through the gases that we exhale. That's one way, right? That's the breath, as we speak about through the studies that we've spoken about through NASA. There is also another method of breath work that I utilize, which is to help people shut down the frontal cortex and get into their body and sort of release all the energy that's blocking them from experiencing themselves.
yes.
So that's where my work is. And I find it incredibly fascinating. I've gone down this path myself. And that's what had me excited about it, because it's so easy.
Yes, that's
So
that's
easy.
that's the most exciting thing. I mean, in a way, when we're trying to get people who too often we find, yeah, like you said, thinking too far ahead or thinking in the past, and we're finding too many excuses for, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't stop now. I can't. Yeah, you can, and you can with a smile, not beating yourself up. You know, like how much that this is like a sort of a side thing, but isn't it amazing how we pull guilt and like if we a lot of us, maybe this could be an awareness thing that by not allowing ourselves a gift of sitting for 5 minutes, pausing, breathing,
Mhm.
or before a meal, I'm always telling people saying grace is great, but give thanks for the Brussels sprouts and the vitamin C in it and how it's an antioxidant. And you just might be more satisfied. You will be. So with studies and so on, take that breath. Isn't it amazing though how guilt and all that stuff, do you feel that too, Mary?
Yeah, I think the common denominator with like every path that people take, it's what's missing when you're unable to take away the focus is to connect.
Yeah.
Like, it's to connect with yourself, to connect with your food, to connect with what's around you. Is like that's what's missing. The need to stay really busy and not sit with oneself, for a lot of people, is a trauma response, because we have to stay busy, we have to prove this, we have to do that. But what you're doing is your mind is hyperactive. You're releasing your cortisol, your adrenal glands get tired. So there's all these, physical attributes that come up as well. It's like you're not only rushing your mind, but you're rushing your body, and your body's just like, I just want to sit. So it's almost a gift, right? It's like 5 or 10 minutes a day, get up early, do it at the end of the day, do it between the things you have to do, just to sit and be quiet. Use a timer, use an app, whatever works, but something, anything to just literally sit quiet. And the more you do it over time, the more your mind will relax, the more easily you'll be able to connect with your intuition. So you can make better decisions. You could think about yourself more. It's not a selfish thing. Thinking about ourselves is important because we need to tend to ourselves first in order to serve others. So if we're not aligned and we're not feeling well and we're not connected, it's hard to show up 100% for that project or your children or your partner or your friends, your community. So it's really, really important. It's like if I could give people 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day to just, here's your gift, 10 minutes. You don't have to say anything. You don't need a mantra. You just need quiet. And you don't have to shut your mind down. Just observe, like become an observer in your life. Observe how your brain works. And the more you do that, the more you observe how your brain actually functions and the thoughts that come up, then you can start to decide, like, are these thoughts useful? Is this something I want to think? Because you can't change your mind necessarily without being an observer of your own thoughts. I feel like once you understand where the thoughts are coming from, the internal voice, then you can change the thought. Then you can actually shift and take that energy and put it towards something.
Yeah. When it comes to our life activities, our meals, choices, and also, yes, waking up and what's the first thing that getting into your breath or yoga or certain things that bring us into that center so that everything else now has that better choice, that
Uh-huh.
better opportunity. And that's you're putting in such a wonderful way. When I tell everyone, whether it's physicians, companies that are entrepreneurs, I advise, and I'll say the nervous system. That's my thing. I geek out, but I'm going to bottom line it for you. That's where your intuition and your spirit
Mhm.
hides. And that's where it's waiting to come out. And spirit Yeah, that's where its chair is. It's in your nervous system, and that's our observations and all that you just said. And
Yeah.
you've done a lot of work with food also. That's a passion for
Yep.
you as well, Mary, right? With people. And yeah, Mary, I know you do classes. You're teaching in the North Fork. You also do individual coaching. Do you do virtual? Are you
I'm going to be doing more virtual, so I'm in the middle of getting ready to move.
I'm just gonna say, yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
just
once
your
I
move.
get settled, I have an office I could set up, because where we are now, we're in a rental. It's amazing. It's an art gallery, but where we are is like hard to find a space to just sit and be quiet, right? So I need to be able to focus. I need a lot less distraction than I have in my life. I do hold workshops, in-person workshops for the breath work that I work with, which is the type of breath. We use a rhythm. It helps sort of subdue the frontal cortex, and it helps you get into your body. You can actually feel the electricity, the frequency in your body, which sort of like shocks you into, wow, this is me. This is my energy.
Yeah.
This is my vibration. This is my home frequency, my God source. Like you could feel it in your body. It's wonderful and fascinating. But that actually allows you to break into and release some of the blocks that are sort of holding you back, because it's all energy, right? I mean, talk about, Dolores Cannon talks about this all the time, and I know she's passed, but all of her videos and all of her speeches are out. And the energy in the body is such a it's everything, right? So when we have things that we take things in that block that energy up, we can't show up 100%. Our intuition is sort of dumbed down a bit, but our intuition is our higher voice, is our power, and that's what we need to connect with. So connection is my life's journey, right? Connecting and
Yeah.
putting the right food in so you can keep the frequency clear. Like it all sort of rolls in together.
The energy and delta E, the symbol for energy turned to heat, water turned to steam, power. That's my logo, and that's my very detailed mission statement. Get the energy right, everything else follows. It's like, wow, it doesn't have to be that hard. It can be that exciting. And this is so exciting, Mary. And I'd love to continue this conversation because there's so many other ways that people can grow with it.
Yes.
Mary Cognat, marytonic.com, Mary period tonic on, or Mary's name, Cognat on Instagram. Get in the conversation with Mary and myself. And Mary, I'm so grateful with moving and everything else the day after Thanksgiving. Thanks for taking the time, Mary.
I really appreciate it.